Thank you very much. I would just like to start off by asking a question. Are there any trustees of the Power Authority present here today? The answer is no. Is the CEO, Mr. Kessel, here today?
He's not.
No.
The answer is no. Is this being broadcast, telecast, webcast, anything like that?
No.
The answer is no. Good morning. I'm New York State Senator George Maziarz, and I welcome this opportunity to testify today regarding the proposed increase in hydroelectric preference power rates. I have a lot to say today, and I do not think the Power Authority is going to like it. But I hope you at least listen carefully, and I wish the trustees were here to listen carefully, and I wish Mr. Kessel was here to listen carefully, and consider charting a different course, a course of accountability, responsibility, and transparency, especially regarding those communities that are directly impacted by NYPA. Let me first express my disappointment that you have chosen to host a single hearing to debate whether or not to raise electric rates on beleaguered upstate homeowners, and you hold this one hearing at 11 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the week in Albany, more than 302 miles from Western New York. And if my constituents were to look on your website, they would have absolutely no idea that this important hearing, a hearing on whether or not their electric rates were going to rise, was even taking place. Shame on you for trying to hide from those people who will be directly impacted by your decision. You should immediately schedule a public hearing in Western New York, preferably in Niagara County, the home of the Niagara Power Project. And I will set up that hearing with or without the Power Authority. After all, this is supposed to be Sunshine Week in state government, when we celebrate public transparency. Well, I think it would be a whole lot sunnier with a few more public hearings. As I read through the rationale for this increase in the 2009 preliminary staff report, I became incensed. NYPA references cost drivers responsible for this increase. Number one on the list is the relicensing expenditures at Niagara and St. Lawrence. And yet during the relicensing process, our communities in Niagara and Western New York were repeatedly told that we should not expect too much. We should not be too greedy. We needed to be responsible, because if NYPA gave us too much, then they would have to increase rates. And that increase of rates would be bad for everyone. NYPA repeatedly said that they had allocated a set amount of dollars for relicensing, and that they would keep it, relicensing, rate neutral, a term that NYPA used repeatedly, rate neutral. And we had to stay within that parameter. And so we did. And now we are here today. Clearly, NYPA lied to the host communities in Niagara and St. Lawrence. You either lied to us then, or you're lying to us today. Now, I've been around a long time, so I'm very confident that NYPA is going to produce a bunch of charts, statistics, and legal mumbo-jumbo to explain how this increase on homeowners and on munis is all fair and how it makes sense. Well, before you go into full spin mode, let me raise a couple of other points. NYPA Chief Richie Kessel was quoted as saying the $750 million sweep that the state took from NYPA, again, mainly from Niagara and St. Lawrence, because those are the only two spots where you make money, was okay, because the state really needed the money. Kessel said that NYPA was more than able to handle this, and it wouldn't impact their finances. I want to read Mr. Kessel's statement direct. Kessel said the lost money will have no impact on services, will not force the Power Authority into any layoffs or cutbacks at any facilities, will not affect low-cost allocations to certain companies, and, this is important, will not force any rate hikes. In Mr. Kessel's own published report to employees, he boasts how NYPA's financial performance was better than their targets. So all of this is good news. Good news, of course, unless you're a muni, you're a National Grid, NYSEC, or an RG&E customer. who gets to now pay higher electric rates in the midst of a terrible recession so NYPA can continue to be so generous to the state of New York. So within days of NYPA handing off $750 million to the state, it asked for an increase on upstate electric users. Explain that to me, somebody. Please. Explain that to upstate families. Justify your reverse Robin Hood tactics that hammer the poorest sections of the state in the form of increased electric rates to fund state government. I don't expect you to answer right now. And while you're boasting of all your amazing stewardship of NYPA, I asked you to explain, to come clean right now on NYPA's overly generous variable pay scheme. I mean, we've all read about Attorney General Cuomo's deserved hammering of AIG and handing out bonuses given that company's downfall. Yet NYPA, as a public authority in a state that has huge deficits, actually has had its own bonus program called variable pay. It's my understanding that these are supposed to be merit bonuses based on performance, yet 2/3 or more of the employees get these bonuses. And what defines performance? After all, here you are asking the taxpayers to fork over more of their paychecks to you. Given that little fact, I think you've got a lot of nerve asking for bonuses. And again, if this isn't insulting enough to the people of upstate New York, the people whose electric rates you are about to increase, in what really is nothing more than a hidden tax, then let me bring up one more topic. Over the last few years, we've had a couple of major economic development projects in the pipeline for Western New York that required a significant NYPA allocation. And NYPA cried that they couldn't come up with the power, thus killing the deals and the jobs that go along with them. There are dozens and dozens in Niagara County alone, but I'll only mention Wacker Chemical, and more recently, the Huntley Power Plant, where NYPA really turned its back on the people of Western New York. I personally worked over 2 years with a small company headquartered in San Francisco called Google that wanted desperately to locate in Western New York and were told there was no power available for them. And yet, the Board of Trustees recently had the audacity to steal, and I'm going to say steal, from St. Lawrence and Niagara and send it to the Brookhaven Lab on Long Island, to a federal government facility. You can't do our projects, but magically you could find 15 megawatts of hydropower from Niagara and St. Lawrence to give to Mr. Kessel's friends on Long Island. That's disgraceful. I called you liars to begin with, and now, unfortunately, I'm going to call you thieves, robbing upstate in the middle of the night to make yourself the heroes of the Patterson administration in Long Island. You would think that since NYPA revenues are driven by Niagara and St. Lawrence projects, our communities would have some advocates on the NYPA board watching out for our interests. I want to commend Judge Eugene Nicandri from the North Country, who's been the lone voice on the Board of Trustees in pointing out some of the issues that I have raised here today. But Western New York's two representatives have been enablers of these misdeeds and, quite frankly, should immediately resign, since they voted for the sweep. They voted for the theft of our power, and they voted in support of the rate increases on upstate utility customers, the very people that they are on this board to represent. Pat Curley and Elise Cusack, you have failed us. I call on NYPA to reject this electric rate increase. Again, really what is a hidden tax on upstate electricity customers. And I call on Governor Patterson to take a look at how upstate is having its natural resources pillaged to the benefit of other regions of the state while our economy withers on the vine. We've been lied to, we've been cheated, and we have had enough. Thank you.